A man lives his entire life in love and faith, until a letter reveals a truth his heart has known all along, but still chooses to forgive. 1957, United States. A country deeply divided by color lines, where an unwanted glance could spell doom. This was a time of invisible rules, and if anyone dared to break them, they would pay the price. A world where love between blacks and whites was not just forbidden, but deadly. These rules were unspoken, but known to everyone, especially in the South, where hostility and division were not just a matter of debate or signs, but were ingrained in the very bones of every person. If a black man dared to appear next to a white woman in public, one wrong glance would cost him his life. This was no exaggeration. This was a rule that people lived and died by. In a small town in the South, where the shadows of the past linger like long shadows on the ground, Noah Brooks lives a simple but heavy life. He is a mechanic, the only black man in an all-white town. Noah has never complained about his poverty. He is used to hard work, his hands calloused from years of working in machine shops, where he learned everything about how a machine works, slowly, steadily, and without complaint. But in his eyes, there is one thing he cannot fix: this society. The cold looks, the disdain from those around him, all remind him of one thing: this is not his place. And yet one autumn morning, when the air smelled of damp earth and the yellow leaves gently fell to the ground, Emma Clark appeared. A white girl, with long blonde hair and bright blue eyes like the spring sky, walked into this small town to start her job as a teacher at the local elementary school. A young teacher, smart, beautiful, and seemingly too gentle for the tough people around her. Emma came from the North, where she had been raised in a different world, where the walls of segregation were not as strong as in the South. But Emma never talked about her past. She always avoided any questions about why she left the big city to live in this small, poor town. Whenever someone curiously asked about her family, about her life before she came here, she just smiled gently and changed the subject. But Noah realized that, in those bright eyes, there was a deep sadness, something she could not share. For Noah, life had taught him to read the unspoken, the muted silences and the distant gazes. He saw it in Emma, and though he could feel it, he never asked. He understood that sometimes, unnecessary questions could only cause more pain. And then, one afternoon, as the sun began to set and the sky turned orange, Emma and Noah met for the first time at the small cafe in town. It was just a simple conversation. She asked him about his work, about how he had survived all those difficult years. Noah answered simply, without too much detail, but his eyes couldn't hide the curiosity. Emma looked at him, a penetrating look, as if she were examining something unspoken. It was the first moment they began to realize that there was a connection between them that they couldn't explain, but it was a dangerous connection, because society didn't allow them to be close to each other. And so their relationship developed in secret, in furtive conversations, in quick glances when no one was looking. A budding relationship between two people, one black and one white, in a divided world, was not an easy thing. Every time Noah looked into Emma's bright eyes, he wondered, did she see a future in him or just a temporary escape from his monotonous life? Emma carried her past, and Noah carried his own wounds. They never talked about each other's past, but there was one thing that could not be hidden. They were two completely different pieces of the puzzle, but could find each other in a world full of barriers. And even though they knew that just one mistake, one small carelessness, could turn everything upside down, they still could not stop. Because in this divided world, theirs was the only relationship, and that was the scariest thing. After months of caution, Noah and Emma decided to break through all the barriers of society to start a new life, where their love no longer had to be hidden in the dark. They got married in a small ceremony, attended by only close relatives in town, who didn't ask too many questions. No one needed to know that behind the happy smiles and vows was a relationship that society would never easily accept. But for Noah and Emma, all they needed was each other's presence, and nothing could break that. As time passed, their love blossomed like a green tree in a wild garden. They had 2 children, Isaac and Grace, 2 little angels who made their family more complete than ever. Noah, despite his busy job as a car mechanic, always found time to spend with his family. He loved coming home after a long day at work, smelling the dinner his mother had cooked in the kitchen, and hearing the laughter of his children. Emma, despite her unspoken worries, was a wonderful mother and devoted wife. She took care of everything, always smiling when she saw the children playing, the full meals on the table, and the cozy home they had built together. But behind that smile, there were nights when Emma sat alone in the kitchen, her eyes distant. On quiet nights, when only the dim yellow light shone on the wooden table, she would sit there quietly, not because she was tired, but because of a worry she could not share. The things she had done, the things she had hidden, were still like ghosts lingering in her mind. Even though she tried to do everything perfectly, there were old memories that could not be erased, and Noah, the man who always believed in her, always the strong wall for her to lean on, still did not ask. He knew that if there was something important, she would tell him. He believed in their love, in the power of understanding they had built over the years together. But one day, a letter arrived, bringing with it an unimaginable shock. The strange handwriting on the envelope made Noah feel uneasy at first sight. The name on it, Elijah, made him feel suffocated for a moment. He opened the envelope not out of curiosity, but because something in his heart told him he had to know. But when he read the first sentence, all his thoughts suddenly stopped. "I think I might be your wife's son." The words were like a punch to the heart, making everything around him suddenly become blurry. A feeling of confusion enveloped him, but strangely, he did not feel angry, not betrayed. Only a feeling of discomfort, an indescribable sorrow. He sat there, silent, his hands holding the letter trembling. He did not read it, did not want to continue with the terrible truth that the letter brought. But instead of throwing it away, he just put it away, hid it in a drawer where no one could see it. He did not tell Emma, did not ask her about it. Maybe it was because he knew that no matter what the answer was, it could not change the love they had for each other. He chose not to know, because love to him was greater than anything. But since that day, everything was no longer the same. His view of Emma had changed, not with doubt, but with pity. He looked at her, no longer just as his wife, the mother of his beloved children. He looked at her as a woman with a past that he could not fully understand, a past that had made her who she was today, but made him doubt what he was building. No one said anything, no one asked anything, but in Noah's heart, everything was different. The long, lonely nights in the bedroom, the times he woke up in the middle of the night, unable to sleep because of thinking about the letter, all of those things gradually invaded his mind. But he still kept silent, kept his secrets to himself, did not dare to face Emma, because in his heart, he still believed that there were things that could only be resolved when the time came, and now he needed to wait. But could he keep silent forever? The numbing feeling of time was shortening. With each passing day, Emma grew weaker, her face pale, her movements slow, as if every breath she took was a struggle for life. The doctors had told her she had only weeks to live, but Emma was no longer afraid. She had accepted this truth long ago, when the shadow of cancer invaded her body and destroyed everything she had ever loved. All the things that could not be changed were now like deep scars on her soul. But there was still one thing she could not let go of, a secret that, if told, would be her liberation. On a rainy afternoon, when the room was left with only two people, the sound of raindrops hitting the window was the only thing that rang out besides Emma's weak breathing. She lay on the hospital bed, her eyes tired but still filled with determination. Noah sat beside her, his hand holding hers tightly, as if to keep her with him, even though he knew that it could not stop the flow of fate. She turned to look at him. The words that were about to come out were stuck in her throat, but she was determined. She sighed softly, her eyes filled with guilt, and began to say the words that she had not dared to admit for so long. "There's something I never told you. Before you. Before all of this, I had a baby boy. I was young, my parents sent him away." As the words came out, Emma's heart clenched. She had kept this story hidden all her life, the pain of having to part with her firstborn, the heartache of having to let him go without knowing if she would ever see him again. Over the years, even though she had a family, children of her own, the pain had never gone away. She had lived with it, tried to pour all her love into Isaac and Grace, but somehow she felt like she was missing something important. Noah said nothing. He just gently squeezed her hand, a very simple gesture but full of understanding. He looked at her, not with reproach, but with tenderness, as if he had known for a long time. There was no need to explain further, because his love for her was so immense that he did not need to know everything she had been through. He just whispered, "I know." Emma's eyes widened, stunned, as if time had stopped for a moment. She felt a sudden sense of relief, as if a weight had been lifted from her heart, though there was nothing he had said that made her feel guilty. Noah continued, his voice warm and steady. "I know about the letter. I knew before you told me. I've forgiven you long before you even had the chance to confess it." He told her about the letter, about the moment he knew the truth, not through her words, but through the unmistakable signs, through the feelings he had for her. He didn't need her to confess, because his love had tolerated everything, the things she did, the mistakes and secrets she kept. He had forgiven her long ago because he loved her, unconditionally, even with her imperfections. Emma cried, but not because of the blame, not because of the blame for the past. She cried because she was loved, loved exactly as she was, without having to hide, without having to fix the past. She cried because finally, in this moment, she realized that Noah's love for her had no limits, not a love that only accepted the good things, but a great love that could forgive everything. And that was the precious gift she received in the last days of her life. Noah said nothing more. He leaned down and kissed her forehead gently, a soft, warm kiss, as if he were promising her he would never leave. He held her hand tightly, never wanting to let go, even though she was on the edge of life and death. He held her hand, and when Emma's last breath died, he still didn't leave, still by her side, with the boundless love he had for her all his life. And so they left together, not in separation, but in absolute understanding, in the deep love they had created, a love that needed no lies, no secrets. There was only one truth. They loved each other, and that was all. After Emma left, the house was so quiet that you could hear every breath of space, every small sound broken in the stillness of the night. The house, which was once filled with laughter, warm words, and gentle eyes, now had only the coldness of silence and emptiness. Noah continued to go to work every day, but he was no longer interested, no longer had the joy like before. Everything, every job became dull, leaving only an untouchable feeling, as if a part of his soul had been taken away with Emma. Every morning when he woke up, he had to face a world without her, and he didn't know how to continue living in that world. Every night, when his children were asleep, when everything had returned to its quiet solitude, Noah would open the drawer. That was where he kept the letter. Though he didn't want to admit it, it seemed like the letter had become an indispensable part of his life, as if it were waiting for something, a resolution that he had been trying to avoid for so long. The previous times he had put it back hastily, as if he didn't want to face what might come. But tonight, he couldn't bear it anymore. He slowly pulled the letter out, his fingers running over the paper, feeling its coldness. As he read the words from Elijah, now a man, a slight shock spread through his body. The words were simple, asking for nothing more than an answer. "I think I might be your wife's son." It wasn't a plea, not anger or hatred, just a simple request. An answer. An answer about a past Noah didn't know, about a child he'd never met but was an inseparable part of Emma, about the secrets she'd kept hidden all those years with him. Those words not only hurt, but also forced him to face something he had tried to avoid all his life. How could he accept that someone who was not his son, someone he had never met, was the son of the wife he had loved for so many years? But then the eyes of Isaac, his youngest son, sleeping soundly in the room, suddenly appeared in his mind. A child who had no idea of the secret, a child he had loved and cared for as if he were a part of himself. In that moment, Noah's heart stopped. He looked at the letter, then back at his little son. He wondered, if Isaac had been kept in the dark all his life, could he bear to know that his son did not know the truth about himself? Could he have remained silent, continuing to live in secrecy without giving his children a chance to understand? Noah put the letter down, his hands shaking, but his mind full of unanswered questions. He felt at a crossroads between keeping his peace, a silence that would last forever, or facing the truth, facing the pain that had been buried. He didn't know if he had the courage to find Elijah, to face what had been forgotten, or if he would continue to live in the shadow of the secrets Emma had kept. But he knew one thing, that Isaac and Grace deserved to know the truth, even if it changed everything, even if it shattered what he had built. He sighed, his eyes filled with determination. If he wanted to do right, he had to make this choice. And no matter how hard it was, he knew that nothing was more important than letting his children live in the truth. Early one morning, when a thin mist still lingered over the streets, Noah stepped out of his house, his feet steady but his mind heavy. It felt like every step he took was leading him toward an inevitable decision, no matter how painful, no matter how much it would change everything around him. The chill of the morning could not ease the confusion in his heart, but it did make him feel that he was ready to face the truth. The secrets that had been buried deep in the past could no longer be buried. He stopped in front of the post office, the dim light of the early morning glistening on the old wall. In his hand, the reply letter was neatly folded, small but containing so many emotions and stories. He slowly opened the letter, reading the simple, gentle yet profound lines. "Your mother loved you, and I believe she wanted you to know." Those words were not exaggerated, not heavy, but carried an undeniable weight. He felt peace rising in his heart, not because he had done the right thing, but because he had not let the past continue to hurt the people left behind. He understood that, no matter how painful the truth was, silence would only make the pain endless, lasting forever. In that moment, Noah felt a weight lifted from his shoulders. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew he had chosen to do the right thing, for Elijah, for Emma, and for himself. No one can live in darkness forever, and the truth, even if it hurts, will eventually lead to freedom. And in the light of day, Noah knew he hadn't let the past take another person.